When we started Avirate, we started at a very good time. It was just after the war, where I even used to do sales, start working with the merchandising, like learn how you do your patterns, everything. Because once you are aware of all the work that is gone in, then you realize, okay, which is the first area that you can let go of. Because when you compete into that, you enter a fast fashion industry.
Right.
So very rare, unless that person is really close to you and really appreciates what you've done, then you'll find somebody coming from the back end tapping and saying, buddy, you did a good job.
That's 100%
But now
great.
it's all about, see, motivation is the way forward. If somebody from outside is not going to motivate you, you need to self-motivate yourself. How do you self-motivate? Is you need to pick what you want, what will motivate.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome for joining us on the very first episode of Entrepreneur Wired. Entrepreneur Wired is a platform which will share entrepreneurial stories, stories of startups, and also create dialogue. Ladies and gentlemen, joining us on the very first episode of Entrepreneur Wired is a very special guest, Asim Younoos. Thank you so much, Asim, for joining us. Asim Younoos is the CEO of Avirate, leading fashion brand which is owned by the apparel company Timex and Ferguson Group. Thank you so much once again, Asim. This is a truly special occasion for us here, and it is an absolute pleasure to have you here. So without further ado, let us jump into the questions if you don't mind. So our viewers would like to know a bit about your story and a bit about the story of Avirate. Could you please take us through that?
Sure. So basically, you did mention that it's part of Timex and Ferguson Group, which has been into manufacturing of apparel for last 5 decades. So with that whole expertise that we had in terms of manufacturing and the second generation that was running the business, felt we need to kind of diversify, also look at the vertical integrations, whether it's forward or backward. So when a lot of opportunities came, but they realized you needed more hands to come in.
Yeah.
So we were the third generation to come in, myself and one of my cousin.
Right.
So when that opportunity came through, then it was easier for them to kind of look at, okay, what do we want to do?
Right.
Let's look at a diversified industry. Let's look at a forward integrated industry or a backward. And I always liked getting into the fashion, and I felt, okay, let me handle the retail side. So that's when in 2009, when I returned after my MBA from Australia, when we decided, okay, let's start working on the plan.
Right.
So pretty much end of 2009 is when the brainstorming and the work of Avirate started through.
Right. So, like, if you take like the Sri Lankan context, a lot of kids who come out of school want to maybe enter the corporate sector, but you entered the business space. So, what inspired you to enter the business space, especially in the fashion industry?
I guess it's in the genes. Whole families into business. And that kind of gives you that push. Of course, you do work, and the family does tell you, it's better for you to go out there, get some exposure, learnings. As a student, I did a lot of part-time work. There were times where I used to even wash dishes, which nothing related to fashion, but you need to make money. You're a student. But let me be very honest, those part-time jobs, even though they were not related to each other, like washing dishes, or doing sales or telemarketing. But eventually you learn one thing, that it needs dedication and commitment. Irrespective of whether you're running $1 million business or whether you're washing a dish for like $10. If you don't have that, you're not going to move to the next step, and you will never be recognized by your superiors that, okay, this guy is actually worth to be kept in the company. Part-time job also you could be thrown out.
Yes, 100%. So that must be when during your tenure at Australia.
That's right, yeah.
So before joining full-time, like getting on board full-time at Avirate, did you work at any other organization?
Well, within the company itself. So whenever I used to, before I went for my education, in between when I used to be here for vacation, holidays, I used to go to office. It's just that I felt like, okay, I'm anyways going to come here. Let me spend a couple of months understanding what's happening, getting to know. So I thought best is I'll do within there. I wasn't too keen on exploring, but of course it's good. Nowadays, I've seen a lot of younger generation going out doing internship and all, and that's very good.
Yeah.
And I also really push for anyone who's about to go to college, especially for their masters, give a year, 2 years, 3 years, work, and then go in there. Yeah, you get that exposure because when you actually go into your masters, there's a lot of practicality than theory, more practical than theory compared to your bachelor. So if you're not really out there understanding what's happening in the market, then you're going to be missing out on something.
Well, Asim, you are operating in a very competitive industry, which is the fashion industry. It's one of those industries where there's very little margin for error. So what do you think are some of the core competencies that gives you a competitive advantage over the many players that are out there in the industry?
So when we started Avirate, we started at a very good time. It was just after the war. So the retail industry was not really booming. Actually, you will have only the department stores who would sell, surplus that would be coming out of the market. You might find one on and off small brand. But now, if you look at the retail space, whether it's men's, women's, kids, you have a lot of brands coming in.
100%.
So back then, it was basically you bring in some nice apparel with a brand and you can then function. But now it is more of, you need to be more focused on what you need to do and who are you targeting to. So right now, just to coming back to your question, I think we are more focused. We are more focused in terms of apparel, women's wear brand area that we are in. It's very much competitive in terms of a younger audience. Whatever the brands that are out there, you look at them, they're targeting mainly 18 to 30. Their sizes.
Female population.
18 to 30 female or maximum 35. The sizes go from UK 6 to UK 16. And that means they're more on the slimmer fit. If you're looking at that. So what we have created a different niche for ourselves. We cater to 30 plus. So pretty much, on a bit of a mature audience. Fits or the cuts are to make sure that a woman at that age is never going to have a body of, a 19, 20-year-old, hitting the gym. You might be hitting the gym, but still your metabolism levels, everything kind of, brings in at that age.
That's true.
So the cut is such that it covers all that extra flap that you have or the weight that you carry. And it looks like you're wearing a very nice dress. So the cut is very important. Then the TG that we're catering to. And what I feel is it's the price point. We didn't want to compete in that price point market. Because when you compete into that, you enter a fast fashion industry, which believes in you wearing a cloth for only 2 or 3 times. Because the quality of fabric, quality of stitching is really bad that it does not last long. And that's why hence you end up paying a lower price. We do charge double at Avirate, but we import the best fabric that you would find Calvin Klein using, Esprit using, any of the top brands using. So their suppliers are the suppliers who provide to Avirate. So I pay a very much higher price in terms of fabric, and the whole production is happen at main factories, which again is equipped to give you a better output.
That kind of answers the next question that I was going to pose you, which was do you adopt a differentiation strategy or a cost leadership strategy? But very clearly it looks like you are adopting a differentiation strategy where you are going to have a very heavily targeted effort in targeting a very specific niche and then making sure that you serve their needs to the best ends. Which brings me to a next question, which is on supply chain management, and especially in an industry like the fashion industry, that is perhaps the heart and soul. I mean, that's just not one of those areas where you can afford to make mistakes. And so my question towards you is, our viewers would like to know whether you use in-house supply chain or do you outsource it to others, and what are the reasonings behind adapting such supply chain management?
Sure. So basically manufacturing is done in-house. We have the expertise, and we want to make sure that we need to use them. Basically we're providing a customer product that we usually ship to our buyers who sell at $100, $150, where we are selling it here at $30 and the same output. same result in terms of the product quality. Only thing that I really have outsourced is the logistic, I mean warehousing,
Okay.
because that's not our core competencies.
Yeah.
And it's a bigger hassle for us to start managing that part of the business. So that's you since day one has been outsourced, and we thought we don't want to get into that mess of inverting allocations and
Yeah.
replenishments and all. Let them handle. We just focus on the core business
Yeah.
and see how we can improve that. But coming back to how this retail industry has changed in that last 9 years has been, when we started, we used to follow 4 seasons:
Right.
spring, summer, fall, holiday. Well, there's no winter in Sri Lanka.
Yeah, we don't.
So we
It
call
just
it
rains here.
so we call it the holiday collection, which is for December. But with time and thanks to Zara and all,
Yeah.
we had to move out from that 4 season, because you're working now basically every month.
Right.
So now we have drop one, drop two, drop three. Instead of calling them season, every month you'll have at least 35 new products coming into the store.
35.
35 products coming to the store every month, minimum.
Wow.
So in December, we have every week 60 products coming in.
Really?
Yeah, and plus our quantities also have got.
That's
fresh.
insane.
So your development cost is higher.
Yeah.
So you need to make sure your margins cover that. Because
For
back
sure.
then you would design say 150, assuming that okay, I need only this much, I'm fine.
Yeah.
It was not really fast fashion. But now you need that 150 in like 2 or 3 months.
Right.
So
I think, like, I was just observing how you were saying that you are outsourcing warehousing, and as someone who's also worked in some way across warehousing, it's probably a good idea, because that's probably one area you don't want to get into, and it's best that you focus on your core competencies. Which brings me to my next question, which is on leadership. Because without leadership, I mean, leaders set the tone, and they take the entire team towards shared vision. What is your approach? Different managers and different business leaders have different approaches to leadership, which works for them based on their industry and based on the business they operate in. What is your leadership strategy, and why have you adopted that?
right. So when I started, I'll be very honest with you, it was very autocratic.
Oh,
Because
okay.
I come from an industry which requires that. Manufacturing requires that.
Agreed,
You
agreed.
cannot
Yeah,
have
yeah, yeah.
everyone to give their opinion, because you'll never succeed.
True.
Unfortunately, it's a very brutal industry, and you need to be in that way. But after a few months, I realized retail and me running like a startup does not help. You need to be much more open. You need to get everyone's ideas. You need to start having brainstorming with the team, and then you pick whether it works,
Yeah.
whether it doesn't work. In the end, the decision is yours.
Yeah.
But you're getting more minds to work. So then what I started was, every quarter I would call in my head of design, head of operations, marketing, and merchandising, which are my 4 key areas. Get them on board. We would go out for maybe lunch, coffee bean. They had that.
Where to? Coffee Bean.
Bean
Right.
was one. Back
Right.
then, that was the place.
The Maitland Crescent one, no?
Maitland
Yeah, I was there last night. Okay, anyways, moving on.
Or we would actually, I would just tell them, let's come over to my place, spend good 3 hours, order some food, very relaxed,
Right.
not informal.
Yeah.
But pick their brains. Tell them, okay, this is what I want to do. What do you all think? Share that idea, whether I need to execute it. Then I'll weigh the pros and cons. I'll see what their thoughts are, because in the end, they are the ones who are basically going to run it.
Absolutely.
The design team needs to get a direction of where I want this brand to go.
Yeah.
Same way, merchandising needs to know what's my lead time. Operation team and marketing team needs to know how are they going to really push it and get it done. So that whole synergy needs to happen, which I felt is very key, because back then when I started, didn't have really much experience on it. So design team, I would have one meeting, then merchandising, and then I realized, man, that flow is not there, and that disconnect. Basically, the marketing guy needs to know as soon as the design is completed what the product is going to be.
Yeah.
So he starts planning his visuals, creatives, photo shoots.
Yeah. So that they work in sync.
They work in sync,
Otherwise
and you
they're
need
gonna
that
be
much
like-
time.
yeah, exactly.
Operation team will then start training. So we have training books, which is handed out to the staff who are fashion consultants annually. So that book creates any new fabric that has come in, any new styling, what is in fashion for this year. So basically, we have also signed up with WGSN.
Oh.
It's an online
Yeah,
website.
Yeah, I heard of it. Yeah.
So it gives a lot of insight, which I doubt any of these girls would have access to,
Right.
because it's more corporate and it's quite expensive.
Yeah.
So we actually compile what is really required, get it documented, and hand it out to them. So it's a small study for them. And the operation team thereafter questions, understands where they stand. Because customer service is the next thing that you really need to focus on.
Absolutely, especially in your industry. So where we left was on leadership. We were talking about leadership and how you, at the start of your career, as start of your business career, were more of an autocratic leader, as to quote you.
Initially,
And I think that is something common to all business leaders. I don't think everyone else is so much different. They want to come and do things themselves, but at some point they realize that delegation is powerful. That there is power in teamwork. So could you please tell us, like, when was that realization and how you made the transformation?
Sure. So when you start the business on your own, you need to go to the root level. You need to work from ground. Where I even used to do sales, start working with the merchandising, like learn how you do your patterns, everything. Because once you are aware of all the work that is gone in, then you realize, okay, which is the first area that you can let go of, where you feel like. So for that, you need two things: right person and right time.
That's very interesting.
So how you judge that right person and right time is key. So for me, the first thing that I actually let out was my operations. So I got a very good guy who ran operations. So initially, a lot of training was given to the staff, and then I kind of told him, go ahead and start training them and pushing them for sale, because you need to keep that regularly going.
Right.
And looking at that, I felt, okay, operations running in terms of the front end team is the first thing that I can delegate and pass on. Then you look at the second step that you can do. Maybe, okay, marketing. If your marketing person is strong and if you feel he's got the same eye that you have, or at least close, then you can start delegating. But eventually you need to delegate.
Absolutely.
And today it gives me enough time around that I can even take, say, 2 weeks off.
Right.
Work will still go on. So for that, of course, you need the right person.
And I think like the higher you climb, the more time you need for yourself to think and plan things out, because you can't be like in a routine, because there's no room for creativity then.
True.
So moving on, in terms of sales, you were talking about sales, right? And how you had maybe started off sales as the primary function. So if our viewers would like to know, what were your main, even now, what is your main sales strategy, and how have you used marketing to complement that sales strategy?
So sales strategy basically automatically done through the product.
Right.
So what we try to do is the marketing linking with the sale would be doing the creatives.
Right.
Because we are confident on the product, and even last 9 years we have seen our customers really enjoying, and there's a lot of repeat customers. So in fashion, one thing that you really need to make sure is that there are a lot of repeat customers who come in.
Yes, absolutely.
If your repeat customers drop below 50%, means you're losing out on your loyal customers. So when you do not have loyal customers, the sustainability of your brand is going to struggle, because it's very difficult to capture new customers, and there's always a cost to capture a new customer.
Absolutely.
And you cannot be spending on marketing every time just to get one customer, and your cost you'll realize is 2,000 rupees I'm going to pay per customer. Your dress margins don't give you that.
Absolutely.
So keeping at least above 50% retention on your loyal customer, you need to provide the service, you need to provide the right product. So keeping that in mind, we used to run a lot of loyalty programs, or we still do. Because that's the marketing strategy which goes into the sales, and keeping in mind that 50-60% of the clients that we have are going to run through this. So give them like a birthday coupon, give them an offer, say, okay, now Christmas is coming up, we will be running, say, in one day we have a loyalty program discount of, say, 25-30%. So all our loyal customers who are there in our database has that access to that. So eventually everyone else would want to come, and then you have this tier points where you spend X amount of money, you get 2% of your bill value. For the year, if you spend above, say, 100,000, you get 6% of your bill value.
Right.
So ideally, you're giving a more rewarding points to them to keep shopping with you. And plus, coming back to the marketing for the newer customers is all on creatives. You take a nice picture, put it out there.
Of course.
social media.
Instagram.
Back then, it used to be newspapers, hoardings, all that. But now I don't spend at all on that.
Right.
My newspaper spend is only in December.
So it's only on digital now. That's
All
very-
digital.
Right.
So
that's
I've basically dedicated a big budget only for digital marketing.
Well, I think I need to like emphasize this moment because see, a lot of people are still like in Sri Lanka. I think you will agree with what I'm trying to say here. Are still like having doubts about digital marketing, which is funny because we are in 2019, and I think that coming from an experienced person like you speaks volumes because you, I think, are an individual, an entrepreneur who was there when the internet was becoming a thing.
Okay.
So even you could have had your doubts, but then you have invested a significant amount of resources and time on it, and I think the results speak for itself. And you were mentioning about Zara
Yes.
as a benchmark maybe, and you were talking about returning customers, and I think Zara does like a brilliant job of bringing in return customers. And which brings me to my next question, which is on.
But let me, sorry.
Yeah, for sure.
Talking of Zara, just to mention, believe it or not, they don't have a marketing budget much.
Right.
If you look at them, they don't run any big advertisement campaigns, magazines. Compared to all other retail brands that are there, Zara is the lowest marketing spend, yet the most powerful retail brand in the world.
Is it because the product speaks for itself, or is it because of customer
their
service?
understanding is different. What they believe in, you give the product, value for money, and regular.
Right.
So what Zara does, they make sure every week they have new products coming in.
Yeah.
They want to make sure that one customer who has come today, say if you had come into the store, you have purchased for $50 a t-shirt today, you're going to come next week and buy another $50 because they get you sucked into that whole system of their newness coming in.
Yeah.
So they have no big spend on marketing.
Yeah.
Yet they're there. So sometimes you look at it, it's all word of mouth that kind of picks in and through digital.
Yeah.
And how digital? Without their spend. It is the customers who go online on their own platform and they tag Zara. And then it just keeps going Zara, Zara, Zara.
And I think what Zara does really well is not only releasing fashionable items at a very low
Nominal
turnaround,
price,
but also having a very limited stock. Which means like as a customer, you might not see the same product the next time you see.
Yeah.
So there's a fear of losing out and you want to constantly visit the store.
Yes.
All right, so let's talk about obstacles now, Asim, because you being in the industry for a long time, understand that Sri Lanka is probably not one of the most, easiest place to work. Not that other places are, but Sri Lanka has a unique set of challenges that comes along when it comes to running business. I'm talking about macros here.
Yeah.
So what have been some of the biggest obstacles, especially in an industry like fashion, which is cutthroat? What have been some of those biggest obstacles and how have you managed to overcome them?
I think as an industry, as all the competition that's there, we have actually worked very well together. So there isn't much of a issue or obstacle that I see amongst us because we have former Sri Lanka Retailers Association, we have Sri Lanka's Apparel Brand Association, but our major obstacles come from the outside, that is the government.
Oh, right.
And to be very honest, there are a lot of issues with the VAT as well, which was one of the biggest challenge that we had. Up until 2015, things were moving at an upward trend. And then 2015 onward, the VAT was introduced. Once VAT introduced, there was no, I'm not talking anything. Government, but I have to be honest.
I think they are specifically talking about like a very specific point, which is the VAT.
And this is not only Avirate. In general, all the retailers were impacted, and we as a whole.
Because it's a margin game. And then,
it's a margin game. And let me be honest, any retailer will know their net profit to your revenue is between 7 to 14%.
Right.
7% is like so brand, 14% a brand like Zara, maybe. But when somebody introduces straight up 15% onto your revenue, you need to up your price because your margins are only 14 maximum. You'll never survive.
Absolutely.
Or have a different mechanism on working. So one problem that as a retailer we faced big time and that we faced up until few weeks back or 1 month was VAT. Along with that, we also felt this tourism plays an important role, which again kind of was lacking.
Yeah.
And when tourism drops, it you feel like, you can't really push because Sri Lanka in general is a very small market.
Yeah, especially after the unfortunate incidents that happened on April 2019.
So you can actually plan your budgets for a year, but it's not really guaranteed that you're going to follow that because there are so many external factors that can impact. You can have VAT coming in, all of a sudden a change of government. You can have an unfortunate incident that happened in Easter.
April,
So all that really plays a role. But coming back to my own personal, this was more on the macro level. You learn from your mistakes, and one of the biggest mistakes that I made was, so when I started at the Maitland Crescent store, immediately we went to Cinnamon Lakeside because there was a big tourist influx back then, right after the war. That was also successful. Then we opened one at Crescat, turned out to be another success. So when you're actually riding high on success, you should still make sure you sit down and control your emotions and thoughts. Unfortunately, which I did not.
Right.
And I'm not really embarrassed to say that because that's the learning that is important. You make that mistake and you learn. So on that success that I was going on, we were approached Dutch Hospital. Dutch Hospital, not the first phase, the second phase, which I think where the Burger King is.
Right.
So when we approached, I went to the UDA, so they gave a beautiful presentation, what they want to do there. The investment that was required was nothing compared to what I paid for Lakeside or Crescat because those smaller stores.
Yeah.
So when you get into a UDA project, your investments are much higher.
Yeah.
And basically at that time, Mr. Gotabaya Rajapaksa was there, and he actually was really pushing for everyone to like come in and everything was good. Place was good, but I guess I worked out my numbers wrong. For a brand like Avirate, which caters to only one segment, only to one crowd, that is women, you cannot have a bigger store. You need to know how much of your merchandise can be fulfilled and what is your maximum capacity. Right. Basically, the racking capacity you need to plan. So what I did was, with women's wear apparel brand, I felt okay, 2,700 square feet should be very good, we can do. For that, then I realized, man, I need a lot of options. One thing, I had to start designing more options. I need more pieces.
Yeah.
I need to start producing. So everything is cost. When the product comes in, then I realize, man, the rents are too high.
Right.
Rents are high. I've already spent on my product.
Yes.
Unfortunately, that whole Dutch hospital scene wasn't for shopping. Even now, if you go, it's for drinks and dinner. Yeah. Nobody really goes for shopping.
Yeah.
So keeping in mind, leaving why the customers did not come, but in terms of, assuming that I had to go for 2,000 because I felt like, oh, I'm on the success. All my stores have made profit. So that kicks into your mind that you're like, anything I do is going to be profitable.
I think it's a high that you get with constant success, but and then all of a sudden.
You pull down and say, oh, wait, don't go up there,
Yes, 100% agreed.
But keeping that in mind, now all the Avirate stores that you would see, whether we open at One Golf Fest, at CCC, is maximum 1,200.
1,200 square feet.
1,200 square feet.
Right.
Which is...
I think that's a good idea.
That is good because in retail, what you need to follow is sales per square foot.
Right. Wow, that's interesting.
That is the term we use, SPSF.
So let's repeat that. Sales per square foot. Yeah, okay.
So every square foot matters because you're paying rent. So every square foot that you're paying rent on must make sure that you're able to cover that cost.
Right.
So now keeping that mechanism, I understood that even more. I went for some training programs in India because India is evolved in terms of retailing.
Okay.
So this is where you learn those things. Where I felt, okay, let's look at the smaller the store, higher the SPSF. In general sense, keep a store. If you feel like you need 1,500, go for 1,200. Pump in all your merchandise there. Hit the higher SPSF and automatically you'll hit the bottom line.
Right. Wow, that's a very comprehensive answer. We do appreciate the fact that you shared that with us because I'm very sure our viewers will be able to benefit it, especially if they are if they're planning to or already in the fashion industry. All right, so we were talking about how we're talking about, uncertain environments, especially
Yeah.
the macro, which we cannot control. I think monitoring and controlling becomes a very big part of it, especially in an environment which is uncertain. So what are some of the key performance indicators which you use to monitor the performance of your company?
Yeah, so there are two ways. One is the sale, one is the profitability. So when you're looking at a sales parameter, you need to take first thing is conversion. Looking at what's your footfall and how many out of that footfall that has walked into your store have purchased. Then you have UPT, unit per transaction. So basically the benchmark that I follow, conversion at a standalone store needs to be above 70%.
Right.
That is 7 out of 10 customers who walk into the store, that standalone is more like a flagship in Maitland Crescent.
Right.
Where when they come into that particular store, they come with that mindset that I am going to shop,
Right.
rather than I'm going to come in.
Yeah.
So that 70% required. The 30% is, say, you bring your mother, father, husband, wife, child.
A little bit of window
So
shopping as well.
that's the addition.
Yeah.
But when you're at a mall, your conversion ideally should be at between 30 to 35%.
Right.
Because
so 70% at a retail store and
50% of it you'll take
Yeah.
at malls.
malls. Right.
So you look at that.
Especially because there's a lot of options and they're like
Yes.
no brain,
Yeah,
obviously.
so that is for the conversion benchmark that I follow when I have my weekly reviews. Then you have the UPT. UPT is unit per transaction. So that ideally my benchmark is 1.8. 1.8 is because if you keep at anything 1, 1.2, you realize that it is basically you're going to look at a quantity that customer would buy, take and go.
Right.
But if you move to 1.8, you're giving a chance of upselling.
Yes.
So you need to push to your operation teams or the sales team, you have to have UPT of 1.8.
Right.
Where you'll sell through maybe shoes, bags, whatever complement
Right.
has been pushed through.
Yeah. That's very interesting strategy.
So you kind of need to upsell. If you have 100 customers and they buy only one product, you'll never be able to achieve. You need to make sure they buy more, the better. 2, 3, 4. And then you have your basket value. So those three are the main parameters that is measured through sales.
So what would be your basket value, or is it like sensitive stuff you can't share?
Ideally, I don't want to reveal the numbers.
I get it.
Because that's more.
Sorry, guys.
But you'll have a value. For example, you can say, okay, my basket has to be say 10,000 rupees.
Right.
So
No, we get it. Yeah.
you work on that, and then you look at the profitability. My logic in terms of profitability is make sure you're controlling your expenses based on the sales, which is basic. Anyone would know.
Yeah.
But how would you control? Now, sales are not always up to the budget. You'll have times when the sales don't hit the budget.
Yeah.
When it does not hit the budget, so how can you still go ahead with your expenditures? Where can you control? Because if you go ahead as per the budget expenses, you're going to be losing money.
Of course.
So what we work on is a mechanism to kind of work on direct link with the marketing. So if the sales have dropped by 10% compared to the budget, marketing spend for that month or the following month will reduce by 10%.
Right. So the bottom line matters, and you need to make sure.
If you're running a business, you're not doing a charity.
Of course.
You need to make sure your bottom line is green.
Of course.
If that's not green, you give few years, and then do not have where you think like, oh, I'm going to still try to push it further.
Asim, if you notice the Sri Lankan environment, we see a lot of startups popping up, and we see a lot of kids who are exiting school with the idea of starting their own business. And that wasn't such a fashionable topic back in the day. But I think the mindsets of parents to like kids are changing, and the fact that internationally entrepreneurship has become this very cool thing to do.
Yes.
A lot of kids are entering the space. So what would be your advice for any aspiring entrepreneurs who are wishing to enter the fashion space in Sri Lanka?
Firstly, for the fashion, you need to have the passion. Because if you don't have passion for fashion, then do not enter the industry. In general, any industry, whatever you're doing, whether you're into fashion, you're into tech, you're into finance, you need to have the love for it. Passion drives business.
Absolutely.
And if you're not the driver, and if you're going to sit in the passenger seat, do not get it, because it's just going to waste everything. So, firstly, make sure you have the passion, and then dedication and commitment. And
amen to that.
yeah, let me be honest again that I might have also, not been the right person when I just started, because you're young. And when you're young, you always want to have fun. So you want to go out there.
You want to go to Dutch hospital.
You might have a meeting on a Monday morning, but you're like, Sunday night, let me get drunk.
Yeah.
So then, ideally, you need that dedication, commitment. And see, whatever you party, or however much hard you party, you have to always remember, whatever you do, your leisure time, your party, you need money.
Yeah.
If you don't have money, you're not going to do any of it.
100%.
For money, what do you need to do? You need to get into the driving seat and drive your passion.
That's beautifully put.
Yeah. So you start.
Couldn't have said it better.
Yeah. So even there are times where I would have been out till like say 5 in the morning.
Wow.
I would go to bed, but I'll wake up at 8.
Yeah.
Telling myself, I need to head to work. If I don't, I won't make the money. If I don't make money, I won't be partying like the way I partied last night.
That's true.
Simple. The motivation.
That's true.
No one else is going to give you motivation. You might have outside people coming, tapping at your back, but that's very rare. Some nowadays, if they won't even do that, because they have this thing where, oh, he's doing this so well, let me not do anything.
Right.
So very rare, unless that person is really close to you and really appreciates what you've done, then you'll find somebody coming from the back end, tapping and saying, buddy, you did a good job.
That's 100%
But now
great.
it's all about, see, motivation is the way forward. If somebody from outside is not going to motivate you, you need to self-motivate yourself. Yeah. How do you self-motivate? Is you need to pick what you want, what will motivate. For me, if I want to go out, I need to make money. Nobody's going to give me free food outside, free drinks.
Of course not. So especially not at Dutch hospital. You know what I mean?
So for that, you need to basically keep that in mind and go. And dedication and commitment is key.
So I think all the viewers would like to know more about your partying scene, but then let's keep that discussion for another episode maybe. So let's move into the finale set of questions, which is okay. So we know how entrepreneurship and business is definitely not an easy thing. It's one of those things which is an integral part of your life. People talk about work-life balance, but in reality, that is not the case. Like, this is something that is a part of you. It's part of your DNA, and you have to wake up every single morning and give it your all. But it does take a toll on you. It does change you as a person, because the wars that you face on a daily basis, it transforms you. So how would you describe, has entrepreneurship transformed Asim Younoos, the person, the human?
So it got me very mature in terms of as a personality. Because when I started Avirate, like I was saying, I was more into, I want to be out,
Yeah.
But of course, I had to do this because I loved getting into the fashion industry. So like I said, I cannot sit in the passenger seat and expect somebody to drive me.
True.
If you want to take your car to destination B, you need to drive.
Yes.
So it taught me a lot of things. It taught me, things you cannot trust people on their words. And I told one of my colleagues, one of my friends just before I came in here as well, that everything should be documented.
Yeah.
Do not trust. You might be the best of the person make sure. So what I learned was these key things that are important as a person, which you take everything for granted. You need to start respecting others in terms of their viewpoint as well. When you look at that aspect of the area, you feel like with time, meeting people, socializing, you have learned from other people a lot of insights that kind of build in and then transform you to be a better person. And with time, you kind of get mature in that, So you start up, in general, anyone who starts a business at a young age will be in their early 20s.
Yeah.
And you cannot stop the fun that's in them. Then that's not, you don't want to live that life.
Yeah,
You need to have a good balance.
The balance,
Otherwise, stress will kill you.
Of course.
Even now when I'm stressed, I have my own stress busters that I do.
Especially in a ruthless industry like the one you're in. Yeah.
So you need to have ways where you kind of have a downtime or me time and just say, guys, I'm off for an hour. Keep me away. So phone's on silent, you just go. So it has taught you to give some me time.
Yeah. Very important.
Before that was never the case. Before anything, let's call my buddy. Hey, come here.
I can relate.
Now you don't need you don't need anyone. You just want to be by yourself.
Yes.
You get mature. You actually also start listening a lot.
Of course.
With time that I realized before that was not the case.
Yeah.
My listening skills were very poor. But I realized in this 9 years, the transformation that helped me was listening, where you sit calmly listen. That, and at that point of time, your mind can work. It's just mouth should be shut. Let it work in your mind. You want to interpret the way you want to work on whatever you want to do, but everything in the mind.
Yeah, I think listening is truly an art form which has got lost, but it's a very powerful, powerful tool that a lot of leaders need to have. And when you said documentation, Anush kind of got really happy because he keeps telling me to like put things in processes, which I never do.
Yeah.
Sorry, Anush. Anyways, so just to wrap things up, sir, if I can call you that, what are some of the final comments that you would like to leave our viewers with?
Yeah, so which I mentioned last time, you need to be dedicated, committed, and always remember it is yours. If you are an entrepreneur, it's going to be yours. You're not going to be working for anyone else. You're working for yourself, and you know what is best for you. And always, before you make a decision, weigh your pros and cons, and do not get emotional with your business.
100% agreed.
I've seen people destroying themselves because they're so emotionally attached. They're like, oh, I have done this for 10 years. How can I let go? Even though the business is now dying.
Yeah.
He sees that happening, that, after my first 4 years were good, things didn't change. You didn't change as per the...
Living in the past.
Yeah. But we're still holding that emotional attachment. And a lot of people still hold that emotional attachment with their ventures that they have started. No emotions. Not working? No. If you're an entrepreneur, keep in mind, what matters is just one thing, your bottom line.
Bottom line. Amen.
Bottom line.
Amen. Can I clap? Amen. All right. That was Asim Younoos, the CEO of Avirate, one of the leading fashion brands in Sri Lanka. We truly appreciate your time, sir. This is a very special moment for all of us at Entrepreneur Wired. Like I said, ladies and gentlemen, Entrepreneur Wired is a platform which shares entrepreneurial stories of startups, and creates dialogue. We will be joining you very soon on another episode of Entrepreneur Wired. Until then, this is Abad Fawzan signing off on behalf of Entrepreneur Wired. We'll catch you again soon. Until then.